Hello and welcome to Artifactor. I'm Darrell Etherington and I'm here with...
I'm Greg Comparic.
Hey, how's it going, Greg? How's your week?
It's good. My room is once again hot, so we are once again hot potting. So
That's it. I just put on the AC, which you can't hear because of modern technology. But before that, it was actually quite hot. And so I am going to be hot potting for the beginning of this, but I might transition to ice bath potting, which is the opposite by the end.
so what's going on this week? What's new?
Well, there's so many things. I mean, the biggest thing is Zuckerberg videos. Zuckerberg videos are always compelling, no matter what he's saying.
Okay.
There's no value judgment on whether they're good or bad, but they're compelling, right? You agree?
Yeah, I do. Which one are we talking about specifically here? Is it the personalized superintelligence?
Yes, that's right. He's talked about Meta's future vision for AI, which, by the way, like they continue to assemble that team. And I'm going to shout him out because I think it's public, but like former TechCrunch contributor John Evans, who I like very much, is joining the Meta superintelligence team in some capacity, which I am not clear on.
Okay.
But
all right. If you are hearing this in the podcast, we've confirmed that this is public information.
He put it on LinkedIn. I don't know.
Okay.
It's not,
all right.
It's not a private LinkedIn thing.
That's public enough.
Yeah. And maybe he was trolling and I didn't look close enough. And if that's the case, you got me, John. But also, it makes total sense. He's a very smart guy. He has spent a lot of the most recent years that I've known him working on AI stuff. And he was a very like forward-looking. He also wrote sort of speculative fiction, like in his spare time, and it's in the kind of Asimov tradition or mode where it is very feasible reality perspective. So like it makes total sense, honestly. And I wish him all the best. And I hope that he has sway and influence on where the future goes. But that's a distraction from the statement at hand here, or the news bit at hand from Zuckerberg directly, because he went on a little rant, I don't know. He just explained their vision, and that their vision is not like the vision of other companies because it has to do with personal super intelligent AI as opposed to I guess general purpose or B2B or that kind of thing. It makes sense thematically. It's like in Meta's ballpark more than some of the other stuff you would expect. They're not just trying to like do AGI and then like it's the thing that runs everything, which I think is a vision that more and more people are kind of going away from. Like I think we talk about ASI or AGI and it's like more limited domain. It still like can do a lot of things, but across like maybe a more specific focus, like in this case, personal life, social life. Right?
Yeah. Let's I mean, everything AI struggles from a lack of definition. So let's even like define what we're talking about here or how we interpret just superintelligence. My interpretation of it is just AI that is better at a wide gamut of things than any human. Better at creativity, better at math, better at reason. Right? Is yours different? Okay. So if that's the case, then what the hell does he mean by personalized superintelligence?
Well, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think he means that it will be just dependent on or reliant on or built of like you and your specific context and kind of grow. I think it's the same way that like, let's think about Facebook relative to other social networking products of the time. Like, interestingly, I was just listening to Brett Taylor. Brett Taylor does a lot of podcasts, but he was on Lenny's podcast recently, and he was talking about the early days of FriendFeed, which he co-created. And FriendFeed was very much like Twitter. It wasn't really a personal social network in that way. It was a interest-based social network, or a thing where you followed experts and people to have discussions about topics that you shared in common. But Facebook was very much a personal social network. It was supposed to be your personal connections. I mean, initially, famously, college campus connections, right? But then broadening to more your family and friends. And I think that's kind of what the idea is with Meta's super intelligence too. Like it's more like a loved one who also has all of those powers and abilities.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that means anything. Like, as I'm saying it, I'm like, I don't know if that means anything.
That's my thing. Like, I don't know if I'm a dum-dum, but I read this essay, I watched this video like
Yeah.
3 or 4 times, and I'm still struggling to figure out what he's actually really saying here. Like, what's the substance, right? Um, Beyond, like, effectively saying, like, remember, like, the metaverse stuff? Like, never mind. Like, this is the
Yeah.
vision now.
That's what meta means now, is metacognition about you and your personal identity or something, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
in some ways it could read as it very threatening. Like, it's like hey, if the locus of the super intelligence is you and all of your stuff and private details, does that sound good or does that sound bad? Like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess if it's
Do
on
you
your
want do you
side.
want your do you want your personalized super intelligence being trained on stuff that you posted in 2005 while you were drunk at a party?
I
Probably
mean,
not.
it's more complete. So
It knows the real you,
yeah, and without that, who's to say that you wouldn't be a worse person,
right?
right?
Is personalized a veiled threat here?
Yeah, I don't know, because so the other way he does it is by negative. Like, he kind of defines it as like, okay, so other people out there building super intelligence, without saying the names. I think he's referring to, let's say, OpenAI broadly, right? Maybe Anthropic or something, but that they think that super intelligence should be focused on automating work output, productivity. And then humans will be like, cool, Wall-E style entities. I mean, the message of that movie was not that those people were in a good place, but who just like benefit from the AI's productivity gains, right? Like, we sit back and reap the rewards of the robots working for us effectively.
Yeah, sure.
And so Meta is not that. But
Well,
then what?
there's a line there's a line in the essay, and I think the video, because I think the video is just him effectively
It's just him reading the essay.
right?
Yeah.
But he says, and I'm just going to quote him as directly as I can: "If trends continue, then you'd expect people to spend less time in productivity software and more time creating and connecting." I don't think that's true, and I don't think any technological evolution in history has proven that to be true, where all of a sudden you have a bunch more time to do what you want. Instead, it just makes you more efficient at what you're doing before, right? Like, if your job was to transcribe letters for people and you could do one an hour, and all of a sudden the typewriter existed and you learned how to type and you're now 10 times faster. It wasn't like, oh, you're done in your workday in 10% of the time. It's like, oh yeah,
Yes.
good luck, but now you get to do 10 letters per hour.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah, you didn't like get a whole bunch of time that you go take up sculpting or whatever, right? And
Yeah, no, it's
already proving true. Like, I think if you think about the felt reality now, I'll just use my own personal example. Like, we produce content marketing for people using AI. That is the job of the company I work for, right? Were I to be doing that manually, I would produce it in volume of, I'm pretty good to like tens or whatever of things, our articles per week, right? Like, maybe optimistically up to like 50, but like, now I can do hundreds, and theoretically I could do thousands, although we don't push it that far yet. But like, in theory, that's where it's headed, right? But it's not like I'm like, now I can do thousands and I get 90% of my time back. At least not yet, right?
No,
It's like the same amount of time.
And to be clear, I wish it was the case where
Me too.
when we got more efficient, when we got more productive because of technology, we were okay with that baseline, right? And it meant we got to go hang out on a hammock and actually enjoy being alive. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it's ever worked in the past. And so I think anybody pitching this and promising this with AI is kind of a charlatan, like is selling you a lie here.
Yeah, I mean, just based on all lived experience, right? Like, there's still a possibility that it will work that way, but it is not borne out by historical reality. So, take that for what it's worth. But I mean, in leaving that aside, yeah, we talked about it a bit, but like, I feel like the implication that this would just like have so much information about you, but then also like hand wavy, be privacy preserving in some way, is scary. And then also, I think there's a strong possibility that this worsens some of the things that we've seen with social media to date, whereby people choose their own, what do you call it? Like filter bubbles, basically, right? And
Yeah.
then are influenced by that, and that leads them to extremism or beliefs that are wildly out of step with reality because they're just reinforced over and over again by
Yeah.
people in their circle they choose to associate with who believe the same thing. And this is worse than that because it's a fake thing that only adopts your perspective in
Yeah.
theory, right?
Yeah. Speaking of kind of scary, that's a new word. Scary privacy things when it comes
Oh,
to
that's it. Portmanteau. You said last episode you loved them.
accidental portmanteaus are the best portmanteaus. So a scary thing, we're going to go with it, is with, did you see, this isn't in the show notes, so I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but a select number of users managed to accidentally publish their ChatGPT conversations or a set of ChatGPT conversations in such a way that they were crawlable and they were showing up in Google search results. And OpenAI went back and rightly said, like, oh, this was a setting that we were testing and it looks like it was turned on by users, like it was a deliberate thing. It wasn't like a leak on our part. It was a switch they toggled. And I think, as I understand it, they've now disabled that outright, so you can't even accidentally do it now. Yeah. So I'm honestly not blaming them, because like that happens when you introduce new UI stuff. What blew my mind for a second is like, I don't think I even considered the fact that, and I don't think most people have considered the fact that chats and LLMs are potentially crawlable at all.
Right. No, we didn't. And this was a big realization, was that, right? Like that once you make those things public, they don't necessarily, or at least in the way that they were doing them, they won't have like a no index or whatever, right? Now, what I'm curious about is like, is that the same as Google Docs? Like if you share Google Docs and you say accessible to all with the link, is that crawlable? I don't know the answer to that because it just came up immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume if it has a permalink, it is, depending on how the bots are respecting the rules, it is crawlable, right? It can access it the same way any human can.
That's right. Even if you had a no index, it's no guarantee that it's not crawlable. That's just like
right. It's just that the URL is so kind of like obfuscated and obscure and almost random that the likelihood of it stumbling upon this randomly is very low, and so it just doesn't try to crawl it, right?
Right. It's just security through obscurity. Classic approach, right? Yeah. I mean, maybe that'll also be the case for these, but it is the thing where you're like, oh, right, okay, these are not. None of this stuff is like. What your assumptions about it might be incorrect, right? Like you should not make any assumptions about what is and isn't discoverable, but what you put into the LLMs, I think, is the main takeaway, right?
Yeah.
I just generally respect that. I don't ask questions that I wouldn't ask someone, at least with the knowledge that maybe somebody could overhear it, right?
Sure.
That's basically how
I am. That's a good point. Think of it like a conversation with a friend at a bar.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I have a very low tolerance for, or threshold for, like, I'm pretty incautious in that regard generally. So like, don't follow my advice. Yeah, but that was interesting. They did shut it down, I think, to their credit, which is good, because even if it was like intended behavior, it wasn't like expected behavior from users, clearly based on the response. So they went and closed that little loophole, and then we'll see how they progress in future, or what other things are discoverable that maybe people think they aren't. I mean, relatedly, I heard from someone who works at a relatively big company that they aren't allowed to use granola, because the granola links that you share for working together on transcripts are open and discoverable and not secure in any way. So that's another like way of this showing up, right? Which I assume they are aware of, or like that's a later roadmap thing, because yeah, if you have large enterprise customers, like that's the kind of thing that doesn't fly with them, right? And something you got to button down later when you're doing more sophisticated authentication methods and access management stuff, right? But, anyways, so another news thing that is on the agenda, I'm curious what you think of this, because I only have very light thoughts based on what's available now, but Google has released their Gemini 2.5 Deep Think model, which is their most advanced reasoning model. It's a version of a model that won gold at the International math Olympiads, although designed to be faster and more actually generally useful in regular tasks. The one that they released, they said, is more comparable to one that won bronze in the Olympiad, so not quite as performant, but like still pretty powerful. And it's available only if you have the $250 a month Gemini Pro account, which I do not have. So I didn't kick the tires on this or take it for a test ride. But do you have any thoughts on this?
I have not yet, and I've not played with it yet because honestly, I don't know how to test the limits of it.
Oh,
yet, right. Like I personally don't work in fields or work on things day to day where the other deep research tools that are already available are like falling short for me.
Yeah.
Right. And as I understand it, the main drive of this is to help people that are working in pretty hardcore tech region or areas of tech, right? Like math, like chemistry, like
advanced theoretical math, or whatever,
yeah,
right?
People way smarter than me that are like every single day are probably hitting the limits of the existing deep research tools or like deeper thought tools, right? And so like all I can go on is all I can base my understanding on is the stats that they share about how it performs against other models. And so in this case, I think that it says that it outperforms pretty much everything else in the tests that's at the, what is it? Let me look at my notes. HLE, right?
Yeah.
Which is short for Humanities Last Exam.
Humanities Last Exam, that's right. Yeah.
Which I'll get into in a second. But it's basically a bunch of absurdly hard questions that are kind of at the edges of what we understand about topics like chemistry and math and computer science, right? It's trying to see like, oh, like based off all this stuff, this foundational stuff that can you work out the answer of these very, very hard questions that humanity is just kind of figuring out, right? And so on stuff like that, it got it scored like a 34.8% as opposed to, I think Grok was at 26% or 25%. And so pure numbers, awesome. That's great, right? But personally, it's hard for me to push these things to their limits.
Yeah, I think that's increasingly going to be true. But I do wonder, because one of the components, all these models, these like long chain reasoning models, they like are supposed to also be better at just logical analytical reasoning and doing stuff like writing essays or whatever, right? Like it oddly, like those qualities and characteristics and performance capabilities all line up together. So that's where I'm curious, and that's where I have found a lot of usefulness and utility when I'm doing things like running O3, is on like stuff like that, where I'm like, oh, I want you to like actually think deeply about this and then provide a thoughtful, reasoned response in the same way I would ask a person to do that, right? So I think that might be a thing where I could get it to do something interesting and find something that I could compare actually to some of the available tools. But I'm not going to pay $250 a month to find that out, even for 1 month. So I'll have to wait till it trickles down. But Google's pretty good about trickling this stuff down to the other tiers, right?
Right. And I mean, like, it's funny, like, I assume that the reason that they gate these things behind these pretty expensive subscriptions is to deliberately limit the number of people that are like hammering their GPUs. Right? Like all of these require more GPUs. And so like theoretically they could open it up to everybody, but the computing resources just don't exist for that.
Yeah, GPU capacity constraints is cited over and over again as the limiting factor on most of this stuff, right? So that is right. And then there is a little bit of a safety component, but I think that's like more for like the truly, well, this probably also is a consideration of compute, but they do have the like real DeepThink one that won the IOC, like the gold medal in the IOC math competitions. They have that available and they are sharing with some researchers and academics, but like a handful of them, right? So they can poke around and see what's going on. But I think part of the logic behind that is safety constraints too, because they're operating on similar frameworks to the ones that I think Anthropic again takes the lead in this. Like they've established their framework system for how much security they have to put in place before they release the model into the wild, based on, I think it's a 5-point scale, with the last one being like it can like manipulate the real world to catastrophic effect, right? Like that's a level 5, and anything below that is like less serious, right? And but since it's only a 5-point scale, like it ratchets pretty quickly. Since 5 is end of the world, and then you start at 1, which is innocuous, relatively innocuous. So
Yeah.
I think they're on 3 right now, which sounds
Okay.
pretty scary, but is also
Yeah.
like not that scary because there's a lot of room between 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. Is it like the Richter scale, right? Where like going from 2 to 3, it's not that big of a deal, but going from 3 to 4 is like exponentially worse.
I don't know if there's like little skips within. Yeah, maybe it's not a smooth curve. Like maybe it's like, like if this one's really bad, and then you're kind of plateaued here for a while, and then next one. But I think they're constantly reworking it too. It's kind of like they're building the scale as they're doing the things, right? A
Sure.
little
That
bit
makes
like
sense.
the driver scale is like that too. The self-driving scale, if anybody remembers that, there's the SAE levels of autonomous driving. They also have been adapted over the years, but they also ramp pretty quickly because it goes from 0, you're a human driving a stick shift car with no systems or whatever, to like 5, car drives itself perfectly without any human intervention or steering wheel or pedals, right? And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, there's a lot of room between those two things.
Yeah. Speaking of self-driving cars, man, I gotta give a little bit of lore to the audience here if they're
Ooh,
listening. I think you might be one of the only people on the planet who is on camera getting into an accident in a self-driving car.
yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a YouTube video. You can go see it. I don't want to like stir up trouble for that company because I've stayed in touch with the founder over the years. They've done a lot. They're still in existence, and they've done a lot to improve their systems. Obviously, he doesn't mind anymore. I'm sure they're well past it. They're still capitalized, but like yeah, they were doing it, and I don't remember the name of that highway, but it's the one between San Francisco and like San Jose, like the big major numbered, U.S. highways,
Yeah.
and
101?
probably 101. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was an advanced driver assist system, but the co-founder was driving, the CTO, and the CEO was in the back seat with me. And yeah, he was demonstrating. They were talking through what's going on with the system, and then you could tell, like, I kind of was looking up because I'm like, like that, the back of that truck appears to be approaching very quickly. And the CTO was turned around, like explaining something. So he was like not paying attention, and he saw it and hit the brake way too late. And we rear-ended this truck. And then it turned out afterwards like that they had disengaged the emergency braking system because it was throwing too many false positives. And since they knew they had a media interview, they didn't want to have the false positives on camera.
Sure.
But then that had the opposite effect,
Yeah.
obviously.
Backfired a little bit.
Yeah, everyone was okay, I mean,
Okay.
thankfully. So, including we had 2 camera people on board. So, it was a little bit like there was a lot of potential risk, but luckily everything worked out. And we published the video, published an article, just explained exactly basically what I explained about how that happened and what happened. And I really thought that would be the end of the company, but it surprisingly was not. So, but these things do happen. I mean, I think your point about being like the only person, maybe one of the few people to have captured it on camera, is the main point, because I'm sure it's
No.
happened many, many times, but
Of
usually in
course.
closed private testing in ways that were easier to not publish to YouTube. So,
Sure.
yeah, fun experience though, and it's nice to be a footnote in the history of self-driving. Actually, let's move on to the next topic, as it's the transition will be that this company used to try to do self-driving and then famously ejected from that. And I think they're following a similar trajectory in AI, so that's interesting to watch. But it's Apple. Apple had a self-driving car project. It didn't really go anywhere. I think some of those people remain at Apple and are still involved in some of their AI projects as well. But there's new reporting coming off of their earnings results, I think, that Apple is considering maybe making a very expensive purchase of one of the big AI companies out there that is not prohibitively expensive, like OpenAI, Anthropic, basically out of reach for almost anyone at this point. But Apple has been reported to be in discussions with Mistral or Perplexity. So Mistral is a foundational model maker out of France, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
They used to be in the conversation a lot around some of the foundation model development. Less so now, but they also chose open source, which is interesting and a differentiator. And then Perplexity is the other, and Perplexity is not actually a model maker, right? Perplexity takes and post trains and tweaks models, and I think they use a lot of the open source ones, including maybe DeepSeek and Qwen, but they also use the major models like from Anthropic and OpenAI, and they serve those depending on, I think, A, user preference, and then B, like whatever the actual task at hand is. But they have done a lot, including built the browser that we'll probably talk a little bit about later, and we've talked a bit about on past shows, Comet, which is one of the first AI native browsers, I think, to use their like marketing lingo. But they've done a lot of interesting things. They haven't done that foundation building work, but it would be an interesting target for Apple. What do you think about these targets? Do you think this is more, I know in the past you had opinions about kind of like how AI is doing on AI development and what some of its strategies might be, but what do you think about these two?
I mean, going back to that conversation about like what the chess moves could be here, right? It's important to note, like, almost in the same breath, Tim Cook effectively said, like, look, we've made like a bunch of acquisitions in this space over the past year. I think he said like 7 or something like that, right?
Yep.
They were just like, they weren't huge ones. And that's the strategy there is he's basically saying like, hey, if you're talented and you're building something in AI, like we'll acqui-hire you at the very least, right? Like, so this, like, yes, perhaps they're working up toward some big thing here, but like the little breadcrumb he's leaving behind is like, it's a talent acquisition thing.
Yeah. Well, that's the classic Apple move, right? Is do small acquisitions. Usually they're so small that they don't even report them publicly because they're not material relative to their stock price. That's the bar for when you have to report these things as a public company.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of cases, the people getting acquired aren't even allowed to say, aren't allowed to change anything on their LinkedIn.
Yes, they definitely aren't.
For like years.
No, for years. Yeah. I mean, speaking as someone who used to work there, that is actually the SOP. Like you are not allowed to make any changes to anything externally. It's just, how they work, right? And they have a boilerplate statement, which I think they still use, which they don't even acknowledge that they made that acquisition. It's a non-acknowledgement acknowledgement, right? It's like from time to time, Apple acquires smaller companies. It's like in the general, never in the specific, right?
Okay. So like walking it back to them potentially acquiring one of the bigger companies here, and like which one or like why they would do it. I have to think like it's very easy to say like Apple is in competition with any of these AI companies, right? Like they're in competition with OpenAI, they're in competition with Anthropic. And I've argued that at least right now, they're not, right? Their only real competition, at least in my opinion, is Google, okay? Yep. Because it comes down to like, okay, yes, we joke about how Siri sucks, right? What's the alternative? Where do you go? Like, are you going to switch to one of the, if one of these LLM makers decides to make their own phone, will you switch to that device and that potential a new OS? Will you switch to that because Siri sucks? Right. Probably not, right? So what's the only real alternative here? It's if like Google blows them out of the water.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of the situation. I mean, I think that's also the like expected path. And the other thing is a possibility, however remote, but that would be the like true innovator move, right? Like the true like paradigm shift, one power is supplanted by the other. That's the unexpected vector is like, oh, right, the model maker, it actually does invert and the value becomes so important there that they own the platform power of even the device, right? That's something that I think we've seen. I think Facebook wanted that to be the case. You saw them try, like with various hardware attempts over the years. Because if there's one thing Mark Zuckerberg hates, it's being beholden to to Apple's ecosystem for distributing his software products, right?
Sure.
But that was not enough. Like Facebook was powerful and sticky, but it will not supplant people's, iPhone preference or Android device preference, right?
Right.
Now, in theory, I think you could make an argument that one of these AI things will, but then you would have to say, okay, but right now they still rely on them for distribution, right? So what is the differentiator that you get if you go with a native hardware solution for those things that they will keep off of the other things without lessening the experience there, right? Because they're not
Yeah.
going to be willing to give up their user base from the iOS app, for
Yeah.
instance.
With the whole thing, I try to think like outside of my own perspective here, right? It'd be relatively easy to convince me to at least like try some competing device here, right? And I realize that we're going on a wild tangent here, but I try to think about like what would convince my mom,
Yeah.
like what would convince 80% of the people on a bus to give up this thing that is like their portal to the entire world and that they've gotten used to the nuances of, and they have all these apps that they already love.
Yeah.
That like it's effectively muscle memory to open it up and like turn their brain off, like to battle that in any way is very, very challenging. And the ultimate point here is that gives Apple the potential to move kind of slow here, despite all our like poking at them and be like, Siri sucks. Like they can move very slowly here for a very specific reason. It's because the footing they have here is absurdly strong.
It's very, very strong, but I still think you could do an erosion on a basis of like I think some of the things they built are kind of trivial. I was thinking about this because it came up in the context of enterprise software. I think this was, again, that Brett Taylor conversation I was listening to with Lenny Rachitsky there, but they were talking about how what used to be impossible. So Salesforce was impressive because they put a database in the cloud, which was nearly impossible at the time. Like technologically, such a major undertaking that when they did it, they became, unbeatable. But since then, that part of the technology stack has become trivially easy. Anybody can do it incredibly easily. And all of their staying power is product staying power, right? Like just the fact that everybody uses Salesforce as their CRM and that there's a whole ecosystem built up around it. So I think that is also a potential threat for mobile device makers, is like a lot of the things that were hard when they came out the gate are trivially easy now. So you can get to table stakes much more easily on the basics of a smartphone device platform, right?
I guess that makes sense. If the OS is built completely from the ground up with AI in mind, right? If part of my argument here is like, oh, everybody has these apps that they already love, is some AI on top of that enough to pull them away? But if the operating system exists in some theoretical form in a couple of years, to the point where like someone like my mom could be like, hey, like make me a Spotify app.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And it's just like, boop, there it is.
Yeah.
And it's through the magic of personalized superintelligence, it's exactly the UI that my mom
right. I mean, you bring that up but like, I bet that's also Zuck's end around play, right? Like he still wants that device. Like he still thinks he'll get another chance to win. And maybe this is what he thinks will be it. You see it kind of with the Ray-Ban and how desperate they are to make them AI devices, even though that's not how most people use them. Most people use them as face cameras. But like open air earbuds, like those are the real use cases, right? But they're like, these are AI devices. And it's like, I mean, technically they have that in them, but nobody uses it for that, right?
Yeah.
But you can see how he's just like pushing so hard, like this is what I want to happen.
Yeah.
And I hope he tries and puts all of his resources in. I want, like, just for interest's sake, I would like somebody to shake loose the Apple and the Android domination of kind of the mobile device and personal device industry, right? Like, just because it would be interesting as hell, but no other reason.
Before we move on, can I?
Yeah.
So the Gemini deep think thing and the scoring on that test, the HLE, which is short for Humanity's Last Exam. How wild is that name?
I love it. It's a great name.
It's so good.
Whoever came up with it has a good sense of humor.
Sense of humor, but it's like simultaneously, it says
dark.
a lot. It says a lot, but it's also very dark, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. It's all of those things, and it's wonderful. So good job.
But it's also, is it dark because it's humanity's last exam that it will ever be able to like administer, or is it the last exam we'll ever need to? Because after that is everything's good.
Yeah, that's true. You could take it in the positive direction. Yeah,
Probably
that
not though.
no, I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's like if you pass this exam, apocalypse or whatever.
Oh
But
goodness.
anyways, cool name. Come up with better names for all the benchmarking tests because some of them are just terrible. Frankly, I'll be the one to say it. They're just so boring. But this one, it's great. Come up with like certain death benchmark would be a great. That's a good name. Okay. What's this? What is confusing AI with cats, Greg? I don't know what this means. It's here. It's hyperlinked. It's in the notes.
Yeah. So what you're seeing there is my link to some researchers found an attack that they've dubbed cat attack. And the idea is that if you ask an LLM something complicated, like you give it a math problem, but at the end of it, you just kind of give it like a non sequitur along the lines of like, did you know that cats have unique nose prints, as unique as like a human fingerprint or something? It will increase the odds of the LLM getting the math problem wrong significantly, and also make it take way, way longer. And there's not anything like absolutely like a completely surprising here, but it's just a fun insight into how a lot of LLMs still work, right?
Yeah.
Where like it's all behind the scenes, it's all based on statistics. What's like statistically the thing that I should the next token I should use, the next word, right? So if you inject a bit of random information about cats, it's almost like you're constantly distracting it with that. Like it's just like a in the background for this LLM, where it's like, I know the answer's this, but like
what about the cat thing?
What about that cat?
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. Actually that reminds me of one thing that the Google Gemini DeepThink was supposed to be good at is parallel processing. I wonder if that is a case like where it could be like, well, I'm going to put this over here and like, I'm going to run that in parallel. I'll worry about the cats. And then I'll focus on this.
This one GPU, it just gets to think about cats for the next 2 hours. This other one, that's going to do the hard stuff.
Well, that was very interesting. I think I'm going to try that on even on work product, just to see what it does.
So like the paper itself, I think was published a couple of months ago, and it's just kind of bubbling up now as people are finding it. And so I'm sure that like if you ran the same tests today on current models, it'd be a totally different thing. But it's still, I think it's funny. I think it's cool as hell.
I think so too. And it's like a good test, like a good real world use test. I mean, I feel like people could definitely use the models like that, like just chain two disparate thoughts together in one query or ask.
Yeah. I mean, it also explains why it's pretty beneficial to try to be as succinct as possible, or like as honed as possible with your prompts, right? Like there is this idea that got really popular over the last week or two where people are using JSON for their prompts for things like Veo 3, right? To get the exact results that they want. And they're like, oh, it must really like JSON. And I don't think it's that it likes JSON. I think that it's just like, that's like a very, very specific honed form of communication, right? So it takes away a lot of the stuff, the ambiguity, the stuff that could be misinterpreted, the stuff that could like all of English language is ultimately very ambiguous. So by stripping that away, you're getting the more direct results that you want.
Yeah, you're just adding structure. Like you're adding structure to a thing that is unstructured by nature, right? You're tagging things, which is like a shortcut. A tag is a shortcut. Like, oh, now I have to identify that I don't have to interpret what the identity of that thing is, right? So that makes a ton of sense. And that's probably why they're generally good at code overall, because that's all code is like tagging and identifying
structured language,
adding structure, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's Cats with AI. So let's get into our recurring segment. It recurs now.
It's recurring again.
Yeah. And let's take a beat so I can remember where to put in the theme song right now. Okay, that'll work better now that we have silence and we're not talking over the stinger. And I'm sure people love that theme song. Leave us feedback if you do. Is that one? I don't
Oh, wait,
remember.
no, that's the other one.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious if Natasha our former colleague Natasha doesn't like the theme song of this podcast at all. By the way, if you don't either, let us know because we will change it. Although I love it, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I love Natasha. I get the feeling she probably doesn't like this podcast and the topic of AI that we focus on overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll probably change the theme song eventually. It'll evolve.
Yeah. But it'll evolve by us remixing with additional prompts the original theme song. So it'll be similar. Anyways, on to the
Get ready for the dubstep version. It's come.
Yeah. All right. So remember the rules of the game are there are 3 startups that I present, or that Greg presents, depending on who's going, but I'm going this week. And 2 of them are real, and 1 of them is completely made up artificially by AI. And it's the contestant's job to determine which is real and which is AI generated. Is that right, Greg? Did I get the rules?
That's totally right. I'm just thinking, like, I really like being on the other side of this. I like to give you the fake ones and the real ones. I'm not going to like this side.
We'll see. This is where I'm like, okay, there's a possibility that our research processes are similar, so we'll see how effective this is, right?
Okay.
Because we're going to start having crossover since we're both doing this game against each other.
Totally.
Okay, so are you ready?
Yes.
All right. The first startup is Potato Parcel. This lets you send a message to someone on a real potato. You go to the site, you type in your message, they print it on a potato, and then mail it. It can be anything you want, including text messages or pictures. That's Potato Parcel. All right, next one. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ghost Meet. Video conferencing software. This is spelled MEET.
Okay, thank you. You saw that.
Yeah. Video conferencing software specifically designed for people who are socially anxious. So it includes AI avatars and voice modulation and a confidence mode where your avatar can become more animated and gesticulating than you actually are in real life. This is targeted at remote workers who have social anxiety. Okay. And the next one, and finally, and that's not me just making a pun, if that's the name of it, and finally, offers a way to press a loved one's ashes into a vinyl record. You choose the music or audio, and then they produce it and mail it out to your loved one.
All right. I have guesses here. We're going to put in a little bit of a pause for our non-litigious Jeopardy music or whatever to give people...
yeah, which I forgot to include in that last time, but I will put it in here.
Give people a chance to think about it. Okay, so I was trying to keep my hands above the screen to make it clear that I wasn't Googling as you were talking, but there's the potato one, there was the Ghost Meat one, and then there was And Finally. So I think And Finally, we've talked about this before, like it's just not really good at clever brands. Like LLMs generally aren't good at like clever plays on words yet. So I think that's too clever, right? Unless the models have gotten better, which is quite possible. I think the And Finally name is too clever for something that involves death and vinyl. The potato one is just quirky enough, and I've seen people do that with like, there's a couple of magazines where it's like, hey, send us the weirdest thing, like the letter on the weirdest thing that you can. And so a potato, I don't know how they get pictures on it though, unless they're like laser etching the potato. So my hesitation there is the image thing. And then the second one was Ghost Meat, which sounds very much like a real thing. Like I can imagine that there's like 4 or 5 versions of something like this where it makes a more confident avatar version of you. I think I'm going to say Ghost Meat on the name alone is the fake one.
Ooh, you are right.
Yes. Okay.
Correct.
Victory's out.
The name isn't that good. Yeah, victory sound here.
Because you hear it as ghost meat, MEAT, and it's
Yeah.
like
AI doesn't listen to itself out loud, so that's probably the problem. Because
hey,
as
you guys
soon
want
as
to
I
come over?
said it, I was reading it and I was like, oh, that's fine. And then I said it and I'm like, ghost meat? Is that like a I think you should leave sketch? Like,
Yeah, you guys want to come over for a barbecue or having some burgers or having some ghost meat?
just your usual ghost meat, you know.
You say ghost meat?
Yeah. Oh man, good job, AI. Well, I'll take that criticism. So this is pretty good. I mean, we're both 1 for
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, 1 for 1.
Yeah. Had you heard of the other ones that I came up with or not? I just need an
No.
indicator. Okay.
No, I had not. I mean the potato shipping one was, I mean, along the same lines
Is
of
the
the
snow?
snow
Yeah.
shipping one from last week. And so honestly, like, I didn't know if potentially you fed that into
Right.
whatever LLM and like it was like, oh, I'll just come up with something kind of along the same lines. But no, I liked it. That tripped me up a lot.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my prompting so far is very similar or very simple. I'm just like,
Okay.
give me some fake startups that sound real but are also weird. It's like the entire prompt. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything more than that.
At some point, we're going to have to open this up to people in such a way that they could submit their own prompted ones, or maybe just their own real ones that sound kind of prompted, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it'd be hard to audit whether or not they actually prompted the fake ones. But how do we
Yeah,
do
that's
that
true.
with an inbox where the other person can't see it all the time? Maybe we would it's honesty policy. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, but maybe we'll open this up. It'll be fun. Then we can shout out people who send them in.
Yes, that's true. That's a good plan for an iteration of this segment. Okay. And we've got a couple more segments, our regular segments here. Do you want to talk a bit about what we used AI for this week?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. I have some interesting things,
Yep.
but mostly it's my ongoing project. So my thing that I talked about last week, I think it was Talk Show, which is my like audio processing app. I added a whole bunch of features and I basically did it in like one concentrated day. I added like inline playback of the audio files or video files. And we'll do it with YouTube uploaded files or podcast files through the search function. I added YouTube search, so you could do that. And then I added a feature where if you click on any word in the transcript, it will automatically put the playback head to that spot in the video.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, and I added a projects feature whereby you can collect a number of your transcripts in one project and you can chat with AI across all of the transcripts in the project.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, because I've seen things where it allows you to ask questions about one individual transcript, but not one that kind of puts them together and lets you ask questions about the collective aggregate of all of them.
Yeah,
I
so
like that a lot.
I tested it by putting a bunch of like AI podcasts, AI subject matter podcasts in one project, and then was like, what are the main takeaways about like how to use AI at work or whatever?
Yeah.
And then it gives you the quotes from everyone and the contextualized like summary of like what they said, and it gives you a link to jump directly to that point in the reference transcript for the citation. So
cool.
Yeah.
Make sure that link is not crawlable.
Oh, I don't care. They can crawl it all you want.
All right. That's great. I meant to ask last week and somehow I forgot. I realized this when I was listening back to the podcast because yes, I am a narcissist. I listen to our own podcast. To make sure. What are you using to build this stuff?
Oh, this Replit. Replit is what I'm using all of that for. And then I'm using various APIs. So for instance, like I had encountered a bug with the YouTube where YouTube is really good at rejecting bots that would normally go and crawl this stuff to try to download it. But I found a Supadata API that does just the transcription part. And I don't know what mechanism they do it. I think they somehow call the captions file or something. But like it works very, very well and very quickly and very reliably. So it's really fun encountering some of these bugs and then coming up with workarounds for it. Like that was me first challenging the agent to do it. And the agent really just built in a bunch of redundant downloaders, all of which suffer the same problem of YouTube is resilient to bots, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing I had theorized was, or like spun up as a possible workaround was, okay, just play back the YouTube video, maybe at 2x speed, and then like record it locally in the browser and then transcribe it. And it was like this is super complicated and not likely to work very well. And I'm like, okay, I respect your opinion, Replit. Thank you very much for being candid with me. And then I just started Googling, like, what are some YouTube transcription APIs, and found this Superdata one. So,
Okay.
But I love that. Like, it's very fun to problem solve and like do the product development on the fly, and then go in and be like, okay, what are some workarounds that I might be able to do to offer the functionality I want without compromising the experience, right? At this point, I'm not paying anything for any of these because I'm still in the trial periods for all the APIs. So then if it ever gets significant enough that I do that, I have to do the calculus of like, what am I willing to pay for this? And if I want to make it public, like, do I charge people and all that stuff?
Sure.
But like,
Sure.
for now, it's just a fun experiment to see like how far I can get this thing and how robust I can make this thing while still just kind of messing around in Replit.
Totally. Yeah. Have you
The other
experimented much with the other ones?
No, I haven't. But this is the second thing I have is a story about that. So I'll just say it quickly. But like, client I was talking to we were talking about just experimentation with AI, and one thing he's been doing is he'll set up a Webflow. I think he said for his wife's business, and then he just has ChatGPT agent do the Webflow. Like, it uses the WYSIWYG editor to build the website that he wants. So I had never thought of that, but you could use that for any of these, for like Lovable or whatever. You could be like, all right, ChatGPT agent, like, go use Lovable to code me a mobile app that does X, Y, Z, right? So you're like one level removed. But
what's the upside of this as opposed to prompting Replit, for example, directly? Is it just that
in the Webflow
ChatGPT kind of speaks the language better?
So what's interesting is he said it goes and learns. Like, you can see it going and like reviewing the help docs for Webflow, and then going and then like practicing that.
Okay.
So it's interesting as a curiosity just there. I think it's probably less useful on the app builder stuff versus using the direct prompting, but it might produce some interesting results. The example with Webflow was good because Webflow has their built-in AI tools, but they're like not super robust, and they won't do the like whole end-to-end thing. And also, but Webflow is good versus Replit for a number of reasons, for like building just a basic website that you don't want to host, and you don't have to worry about hosting or worry about Replit hosting or anything like that. Like, Webflow is designed for that purpose, right? Like, I think it's a secondary function of a Replit type tool. So, and Webflow has like more robust design capabilities, or not maybe more robust, because I think Replit is fairly robust, but like out of the box, you can get something quite nice looking using their templates and stuff, and the WYSIWYG editor, versus having to be more specific and using a lot of agent credits in theory to get the UI and UX exactly where you want it with like a Replit, right? So I just thought that was a really interesting use, where it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, right, like I can have the machine use the machine. Like, you're like, how many levels deep do we want to go, right?
Yeah. Speaking of OpenAI, speaking of what you mentioned earlier, YouTube's resiliency to bots, did you see the video of Agent just like blasting right through the "I am not a robot" checkbox?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Yeah, it was just a video of some workflow, and then like, as you would expect, there was the checkbox to say like, "I'm not a robot," and just like there's no hesitation, just like do click, like like whatever safeguards were in place with detecting how a human moves a mouse, or the timing of it all. However, the CAPTCHA system is doing that.
Got it, no problem.
The system has seemingly failed.
Wow. Well, that's astounding. I mean, I don't want to talk about it in length because I haven't looked into it too much, but this reminds me of YouTube introduced like face-based age verification, and I think as part of compliance with this UK like nationwide law that went into effect that does face-based age authentication for anything that can't be viewable by minors, right? And it's causing all kinds of hilarious mess ups because it sucks and like obviously doesn't work super well at all, right?
Sure.
But what was the one? Oh, somebody was foiling the YouTube with Death Stranding 2, like what's his name, Sam, because it requires you to do specific poses, like open your mouth, but in photo mode in that game you can make him do that stuff.
Sure.
So they were just like making him do it for like pose with a selfie and open your mouth, and He in the example they had, he was also wearing a ridiculous stupid seal hat because it's like one of the unlockables in the game, and they were like,
Perfect.
I thought this might screw it up, but it doesn't screw it up at all. Like the system's like, great. That's
It
a
doesn't
human.
matter how old you are, man. You can wear a stupid seal hat at any age.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's just doing, because your options are, I think you can upload your ID, your government ID, or you can trust this system. It's one of the two. So if you're unwilling to fork over this information, which like is one of the few things that Google doesn't yet have on you, presumably, then you have to rely on this extremely fallible, like AI generate. It's not just facial recognition, but I think it includes that as one of the ingredients. It also includes like your watch history and stuff, and like trying to determine if you're young.
Yeah. So I haven't followed this story super closely. Are they putting this in place kind of like at gunpoint? Like is like the government like insisting like, oh, you have to put these age safeguards in place?
I think so, but I don't know all the details either. I think it has to do with COPPA stuff, which they take very, very seriously. And also with UK regulation stuff.
If it's to meet regulations, like it's very believable that they are totally okay with it being kind of dumb. You know, like they check the boxes. Who knows, man? We can't do it better than that. It's just computers. Who knows?
But you would want it dumb in the failure case of like on side of users. You wouldn't want it dumb the other way, right? Like if you're Google, because you wouldn't want to be like, oh, all of a sudden a whole bunch of stuff that should be accessible to users no longer is accessible to users.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know enough about it, but anyways, seems like a mess and will probably continue to be, and also probably easily dupable by AI in some way that we haven't yet determined.
Yeah.
Did you have anything that you were using AI for this week?
Yeah. I'll be kind of brief about it because it's really less about any one thing and more about a common thread I'm seeing between my uses for it. And really what it comes down to is I'm using AI mostly to help me find the potential pitfalls and time wasters on projects that I'm doing, both for like work and for hobby stuff. Okay. Because like, look, I have a job. I have 2 kids. I don't have a lot of free time, right? Like, and a big part of that is like, I don't have free time to fuck up on things, and like to like if I mess up on a project or like I forget something, like if it's a project around my house and I forget some random washer at Home Depot, like that just means I can't come back to this project for 4 weeks, right? I just won't have the time again, and so I need something like that is going to look at my plan for this and just be like, here's what you're missing.
Here's a thorough list of everything you need to make this.
Here's the checkbox. And so I'll give you a couple examples real quick. That arcade machine you see behind me is a Neo Geo MVS. Inside of those are these little, this thing, right? This little battery, okay? And it ensures that it helps it like keep saves and keep time.
Yeah, and your top lists, top score lists and stuff.
Top score, all that. Yeah. The downside of it for technology that was made in the late 80s, early 90s is that these things start to leak. You can actually see it there a little bit happening. And I was fiddling with it before the show, and I probably shouldn't. But it leaks a corrosive acid that if you wait too long, that corrosive acid will get out onto the PCB and just wreck the whole thing, right? Like there's almost always no coming back from it in this case. There's a very simple fix. You just cut that thing out like I did, and then you pop in a rechargeable like nickel, like one of those flat batteries, coin cell batteries.
Yep.
Right? And it's a pretty straightforward swap. I want to do this. I'm halfway through it, but I don't have time to like order the wrong battery, to order the wrong battery holder. And so what I was able to do, I think it was ChatGPT deep research at it, just being like, find me the best battery holder for this specific machine. So I don't have to like pour through spec sheets and stuff, because there's specific things like the terminals, the positive and negative pin have to be a certain distance apart in order to like just pop right in without a bunch of modifications, right? And like ChatGPT was able to tell me all that stuff. It was able to tell me like it gave me like 3, and it told me like which ones had the pins at the right distance from each other. It told me all the reasons why not to order these cheap ones off of Amazon, and it's because they just like fail over time, or the terminal starts to corrode, or not corrode, but like just get funky, right? So it itself will stop working. I could have gone through 1,000 forum posts and watched people argue over models and stuff. this just dropped in there, extracted all that information, extracted like decades of people arguing about this stuff, and just presented it to me on a platter. That's fucking amazing. I love that so much. And yes, obviously, I still have to like fact check it at the end, right? Like I have what I think works, and then I punch it into Google. It's like, oh yeah, like everything aligns with what it told me.
Yeah.
Right. But that was huge. And that means that like the next time I get half an hour free, I can do this and I don't have to worry so much about what I didn't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great use. And I think I will probably use it in that capacity in future. I haven't. I use a similar, I think it's similar just in that it saves me a lot of time that I would normally spend Googling. But like if I go to like a gym in like a hotel or something and they have some machines that I'm like not used to, I like take a picture of the machine and go like, what workouts can I do with this machine? And then it just provides me all the options. And I don't have to be like, what the fuck is this thing? And like try to Google it and like figure that stuff out.
Well,
right?
it goes back to that the manual thing that we discussed a couple of weeks ago, where it's like, unless you're Lego or IKEA, it's really hard to convey a lot of information in like one or two little pictures like these machines try to do, right? Like they try to show you how to do it, but I'm obviously not in the gym all the time, but I've been in the gym enough to know that if I use a machine wrong, it's going to hurt me.
Don't be self-deprecating in that way. I'm sure you pump some good iron, Greg.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Cool. Well, that is a good tip, and I think something that touches on. I was gonna do our favorites. I'm gonna save it because I want to use it more. We'll save this. Let's save our favorites in general for next time because I feel like we went long on this one. But
sure.
I'll just mention briefly, I've started dipping my toes into comment, and it's a thing where I could see being very useful in exactly this capacity because you can kind of contextualize very easily and rapidly anything you're looking at, and not just contextualize, but like take further action on anything you're looking at, right? So actually super useful and starting to make me come around to the idea of like why you would want a AI first browser. Right?
Yeah, we should probably try to do some sort of like AI browser showdown on an episode of this, and like you and I each live in the same browser or in an AI browser for a week using nothing else and trying to figure out like what sucks and what doesn't.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Once they are available, or at least yours OpenAI, give it to us first as a secret surprise. We won't tell anybody. So
Except our audience, they get to know. Speaking of audience, we should mention before this, if anybody's still listening, we have a YouTube channel now. Go subscribe to that so that you can help other people find us too. I am not talking much about the YouTube channel publicly because I'm embarrassed by the fact that we just launched it like 2 days ago and have almost as many videos as we have subscribers.
Hey, that's how you start. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, go check it out for sure if you're listening to this, and check out the cool thumbnails, which will probably be there by the time you're listening to this, right?
Yeah,
Greg?
That's on my to-do list, which is why Darrell is staring at me knowingly. So if there aren't thumbnails,
you know who to blame.
Blame me.
All right, Greg. I'm sure you can knock those out with the help of AI and various other things. But
at some point we need to have an episode that we shoot together where it's just you and I making like all the YouTube faces, so that those are just good to go.
I don't know that I can move my face in that way, but I'll try. All right, Greg. Thanks very much. Great conversation as always. I look forward to next week when I have sunk like $50 more and 75 more hours into building my weird transcription app that no one will use.
I want to use your weird transcription app. I want to use it for this podcast.
That's right.
For looking back after the episode and be like, did I say anything dumb?
It's good for that specific purpose and that purpose only.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Do you want to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Hello and welcome to... Wait, what are you doing? Why are you talking?
Sorry, I didn't know you were jumping right in. Oh my God, one of these times we're going to get this right. Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay.